to our Sunday Psalms. So let's see what you've been up to this week. Hands up if this week you have slept in past 9 a.m. Hands up if you've stayed up really late past 9 p.m. Hands up if you've helped your mum or dad cook dinner. Hands up if you've been out on a scooter or skateboard. Hands up if you've been in a paddling pool. Hands up if you've spoke to a friend this week from 2 meters away. So let's have another drum roll because today's mystery psalm is number 16. So as usual, we are starting off with an activity today. This one is going to be a little competition. It's going to be you against me. So I've got 10 cards here with different things written on them which we might need protecting from. So I'll pick a card and show it to you, and then we're going to have a race to see who can get the thing that would protect us from it first and bring it back to the camera. So for example, if I showed you a card that said skydiving, we need a parachute to protect us from that, wouldn't we? So we'd both have to run and go and get a parachute and see who can get it first. Now, most of them are things which hopefully you all have at home or you'll be able to bring out. But some of them, like a parachute, you probably don't have. And if it's one that you don't have, then what we'll do is we'll draw it and we'll have a race to see who can draw it first. Let's give this a go. Okay, our first thing that we need protecting from is sunburn. Let's go. Okay, I thought that was pretty speedy. I've got some sun cream. Have you got some sun cream? Well done. Okay, should we see what is next? A fire in your home. I think we might have to draw that one because it's going to be a bit difficult to bring a fire alarm to us, isn't it? So let's have a race to draw a fire alarm. A bit hard to draw, really, aren't they? Okay, that's my attempt at drawing a fire alarm. Not the best, but... Okay, let's see what is up next. Oh, okay, what would protect us from a car crash? I think we're going to need to draw that one again. So, pens out. What are you going to draw to protect you from a car crash? I'm almost there. So I've drawn a seatbelt. Have you done the same? Well done. Okie dokie, let's see what is up next. What would you need to protect you from the rain? Let's race, because I know you've got an umbrella. And I have an umbrella too. There we go, umbrella to protect me from the rain. Right, what is next? What do we need to protect us from cold weather? Off you go. My coat's been put away, but I brought my gilet, which might keep me warm in the cold. Did you manage to get something? What do we need to protect us from COVID-19? It's a new one, isn't it? A mask. Okay, what is next? What do we need to protect us when we're riding a bike? Okay, I don't think I've got one of these, but I think you probably will have. I'm going to draw it, but why don't you go and grab it? What protects us when we're riding a bike? Okay, I've done a very bad drawing of a bike helmet there. Did you manage to get one in time? Well done. Okay, I've got a couple more. I think this is going to be one we have to draw. A building site. What do you wear on a building site to protect you? Again, that's quite hard to draw. I've had a go at drawing a hard hat there. Have you drawn something? Okay, I've just got a couple more now. Playing football. What do you wear when you're playing football to protect you? I do not have any, but I will try and draw them. Okay, that's my attempt to draw shin pads. Did you manage to get some, or have you drawn them as well? Right, we've got one more. And it is, what do we need to protect us from a hot oven? Go. Did I beat you? Some oven gloves. Brilliant. Well, I hope I managed to beat you on at least some of those. So Psalm 16 that we're looking at today is another one written by David, and it's all about God being David's safety and security, kind of like the protective gear which we've just had in our game, which keeps us safe. David starts his psalm by saying, "Keep me safe, my God, for in you I take refuge." David taking refuge in God means that God's the person that he goes to feel safe. A bit like if you're worried or in some kind of danger, you might go to your mum or dad to feel safe. So let's read verses 2 to 8 now and think about some of the ways that God protects David and keeps him safe. I'm going to put the verses up on the screen. Now, sometimes at church when we're reading Psalms, we'll take it in turns and the vicar will read it first and then everyone else will read the next line. So I thought we could have a go at that for just a bit of fun. So can you read the bits in bold and I'll read the normal bits? Okay, let's give this a go. I say to the Lord, you are my Lord. Apart from you, I have no good thing. Those who run after other gods will suffer more and more. I will not pour out libations of blood to such gods, or take up their names on my lips. The boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Surely I have a delightful inheritance. I keep my eyes always on the Lord. With him at my right hand, I shall not be shaken. There's a lot in this little passage, but let's just pick out 3 or 4 ways that God is David's safety. Did you hear in verse 2 that David says, apart from you, God, I have no good thing? So David's saying without God, he's got nothing good. That's because David knows all the good things he has, his friends, his family, fun, food, they're all given to him by God. But it's also because his friendship with God is the very best thing that he has. And without God in his life, he really has nothing good. But this makes David feel safe and secure because he knows the very best thing in his life, his friendship with God, can never be lost or taken away. I wonder if you've ever lent a toy to someone else. Maybe to someone who doesn't always take great care of their toys. It can make us feel a bit worried, right? Will they remember to give it back? Will they damage it? Will they break it? We can't always rely on the things we have, our toys, our money, or even other people to make us feel safe, because they can be taken away, broken, or lost. But our friendship with God, the best thing we have, will not be taken away. And that should make us feel really secure, like David. And then let's take a look at verse 5. David says, Lord, you alone are my portion and my cup. You make my lot secure. That might sound like a bit of a confusing verse. What David's doing is he's using pictures to say that God is the one in charge. And so David can be sure that God will give him what he needs. He's the boss, he's in charge, and so it's going to be fine. And that makes David feel safe. And then in verse 7, David says, I will praise the Lord who counsels me. So God counsels David. That means he gives him advice, he guides him. He shows him how to live in the world that he has made. With God as his guide, David can't go wrong. He will be safe and secure. And finally, let's look at verse 8. So David says in verse 8, I keep my eyes always on the Lord. With him at my right hand, I shall not be shaken. I wonder when David wrote this if he could have been thinking back to his battle with Goliath. If you remember, David was very, very small and Goliath was very, very big. But David was so confident that he would win the battle because with God on his side, at his right hand, David knew he was safe. He couldn't lose. He couldn't be shaken. Now, I wonder if you've ever been singing a song in church and had a little think about the words you're singing and realised they're not actually true for you. So here's one little example. You know the song I'm Following the King? It goes, I'm following the King, I'm ready to obey. Now I have to confess, at times I've sung that song and not felt ready to obey at all because I'm a sinner and sometimes I want to do things my way, not God's. I wonder if David might have sung Psalm 16 sometimes and realised it wasn't always true for him. Do you remember that bit in verse 2 where he says, apart from you, God, I have no good thing? I'm not sure he always believed that 100%. I know I don't always believe that 100%. And verse 8 where he says, I always keep my eyes on the Lord. Well, we know that wasn't the case for David. Sometimes he did take his eyes off God and he messed up and sinned. So how are we meant to understand this psalm? How are we meant to sing it or pray along when it's not always true for us? Well, this is an interesting psalm because it pops up in the New Testament. That's in the bit of the Bible that's after Jesus has been born. In the book of Acts, Peter, who is one of Jesus' disciples, looks back on this psalm that was written like 1,000 years ago and says that David was a prophet. That means he's speaking God's words about the future. Let's read the end of the psalm and you'll see what I mean. I'm going to read verses 9 to 11. David says, therefore my heart is glad and my tongue rejoices. My body also will rest secure, because you will not abandon me to the realm of the dead, nor will you let your faithful ones see decay. You make known to me the path of life. You fill me with joy in your presence, with eternal pleasures at your right hand. Did you spot in the middle of that bit? David said that God will not abandon me to the realm of the dead, nor will you let your faithful ones see decay. In other words, David was saying God would not let him stay dead. His body would not rot away. Nice, I know. Well, here's what Peter had to say about that in the book of Acts. Peter said, "Brothers, I can tell you truly about David, our ancestor. He died and was buried." And he didn't say this, but his body rotted away. His grave is still here with us today. David was a prophet and knew what God had said. God had promised David that he'd make a person from his family a king, just as he was. And that's why he said he was not left in the grave. His body did not rot. David was talking about the Christ rising from death. So Jesus is the one who God raised from death. And we are all witnesses to this. Peter and lots of the people who would have been there in the crowd listening to him speak might have seen or heard about how Jesus had risen from the dead. So David's words at the end of this psalm were not really about himself. He did die. His body did decay. But Jesus, where he was not abandoned to stay dead, his body did not decay. God raised it to life again. And so Jesus is the one who could have sung this psalm and meant every word all the time. And the best thing is, if our trust is in Jesus, then this is true for us too. What David says at the end of this psalm is true for us too. He says in verses 10 and 11, "Because you will not abandon me to the realm of the dead. You will not let your faithful ones see decay. You make known to me the path of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence, with eternal pleasures at your right hand." If our trust is in Jesus, that is true for us too. God will not abandon us to stay dead. Instead, he will fill us with joy in Jesus' presence. So through Jesus, we can have the safety and security in God that David spoke about in this life, but also we can be safe and secure forever, as Jesus has made the way for us to have eternal life and eternal joy in his presence. Let's do our prayer drill. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Father, for this psalm. As we see how it points us to Jesus, thank you for the wonderful hope we have because Jesus did not stay dead. Please help us to feel safe and secure like David did in our friendship with you, both now and forever. Amen. Well, I thought we could have a go at our memory verse challenge now. Let's see what you could remember. So I'm going to do the actions and see if you can join in with the words. Okay? Did you remember the words? Let's swap over. I'll say the words and you see if you can join in with the actions. So it goes, because your love is better than life. My lips will glorify you. I will praise you as long as I live. And in your name I will lift up my hands. Okay, did you get all the actions? Let's do it all together. One more time. So because your love is better than life, my lips will glorify you. I will praise you as long as I live, and in your name I will lift up my hands. Well done, everyone. Okay, so today we're going to have a quick go at learning the last verse of this little passage that we're learning. So we'll have the whole thing, and then we'll have a couple of weeks after today to go away and to practice it. And I've also, there's a colouring sheet which hopefully you might have found and printed off, which you can colour in with the memory verse on it, stick it to your fridge so that you can practice it in the week and have a look at it to help you remember. So the new bit goes, I will be satisfied as with the richest of foods. Remember when we were looking at Psalm 63, about how David spoke about how God satisfied him, and he was satisfied like when you've had that amazing Christmas dinner. So I will be satisfied as with the richest of foods. For satisfied, we're going to do this like we've had a big Christmas dinner. Satisfied as with the richest of foods. So we'll just do food like that. Should we do that bit together? So I will be satisfied as with the richest of foods. And then there's one more verse, one more line, which says, with singing lips, my mouth will praise you. And for that, we're going to go singing lips, my mouth, and praise you again. There's a lot of praise in that psalm, isn't there? So with singing lips, my mouth will praise you. Should we try the whole of that new bit? So it goes, I will be satisfied as with the richest of foods. With singing lips, my mouth will praise you. Okay, let's do the whole thing just once through, and then I'll let you print off your colouring sheet and colour it in. So, because your love is better than life, my lips will glorify you. I will praise you as long as I live, and in your name I will lift up my hands. I will be satisfied as with the richest of foods. With singing lips, my mouth will praise you. Guys, if you remembered even some of that, then really well done. That's really long, isn't it? It's really hard, but it's so great to be able to remember bits of the Bible so that we can encourage ourselves with them in our hearts when we're thinking about them. Now it's craft time. For today's craft, we've got a bit of an Easter theme because actually it's quite an Eastery psalm, isn't it? So we heard that when our trust is in Jesus, we are totally safe and secure because he was raised to life again. So even death can't touch us. So we're going to make some resurrection rolls. So I put a marshmallow in the centre of each of these little rolls, which represents Jesus' body. But have a look now, if I break one open. Can you see the marshmallow has gone? Which reminds us that Jesus, he didn't stay dead. His body did not rot away. He rose to life again. So if you manage to get the bits to do this craft in the week, watch the rest of the video and have a go at it. If you haven't got the bits at home to do it, then why not add them to the shopping list this week and you can have a go at them whenever you like because you can always watch the video back. For this bake, the main things you're going to need are some croissant dough, some marshmallows, a scoop of butter in a bowl, and then some caster sugar and some cinnamon. First thing we're going to do is wash our hands, as always. I've already done that. And then you need to preheat your oven to 200 degrees C. If you've got a fan oven, then probably 180 would be good. So I'll just get mine on. Perfect. Okay, so next job is we're going to line our baking tray that we're going to put our resurrection roll. There we go, my baking tray is good to go. Okay, let's open up our pastry and separate out the triangles now. I've got really big triangles here, so I think I'm just going to chop them in half carefully with a knife. Might need some adults' help using a knife. There we go, so I'm going to make 4 resurrection rolls. Okay, I'll just pop them to one side for a minute. The next thing I want to do is to mix up my cinnamon and sugar mixture. Not going to need too much, maybe a teaspoon of sugar, a teaspoon of cinnamon. Let's put just a teaspoon of cinnamon in to start with. And a couple of teaspoons of sugar. And I think that's going to be enough, so I'll just give it a little bit of a mix. You might need more if you're doing quite a few resurrection rolls, but just for my 4, I think that's going to be enough. Right, now I need to get my butter melted, so I'm just going to pop that in the microwave on low for about 30 seconds. Great, my butter's melted there, and I think I'm ready to go. So I'll get my tray back. So all you're going to do is have a little bit of a production line. If you take a marshmallow, so the marshmallow represents Jesus' body. To make it tasty, we're going to dip it in butter and then pop it into the cinnamon and sugar mixture and just get it nicely coated in that. Okay, I think this one's ready to go. So I'm just going to pop that in the middle there, in the middle of one of my pastry bits. And then we need to wrap it up, and you need to just do this really carefully because it needs to be completely sealed and covered. So there's my first one. Just to stop the marshmallow from blobbing out everywhere, it's really important that you kind of pinch the seams nice and tightly so that it's really well sealed in the tomb, in the pastry tomb. Okay, I think that one's looking good. You can see that all the seams are kind of hidden now, and hopefully they're well sealed up. Right, and I'm just going to make my other 3 up now. Right, so my 4 resurrection rolls are all sealed up in their tombs, hopefully nice and securely. And I'm going to just pop them in the oven now to bake until they're golden brown, which should be about 15 minutes. I think mine are ready to come out of the oven now. They're looking nice and golden brown. Now that only really took 10 minutes, to be honest. And you can see that I've obviously not done a very good job of pinching the seams because quite a lot of them have exploded outwards. But this one here looks like it's managed to all stay together, and it'll be very interesting, won't it, when we chop them up to see what it's like inside. Right, thank you so much for joining me again. I really hope you'll be able to make it next week for our next Mystery Psalm. Bye everyone!